Hi everyone. So the holidays are they're upon me at least. I mean, like today is Christmas. So that's a pretty big one among the holidays. And so it's the season though, right? To extend this is like forgiveness and generosity, every form of kindness, whatever all the subcategories of kind, to extend those things. I think that's what Christmas spirit means. And you don't have to be religious. To appreciate and offer that Christmas spirit to people. So whatever your background, whatever your belief, tis the season to give it to family members, to neighbors and friends, and anybody in the community. Like maybe there's like a church thing or like a soup kitchen or whatever. Like tis the season, right? To be kind and to give. But there's one more group. It's going to sound ridiculous, but just bear with me. That I think we should be sort of patient and forgiving, kind to. One more group we should be kind to, and that's writers for whom it has been a while since they last gave us an installment in their series, and because people treat them so harshly. I mean, I have two writers in mind, both of which I've read their work multiple times. I've never once felt inclined to criticize, their pace, their sluggish pace of delivery. But other people really seem to like those writers owe them something. Unless there's some indentured situation that I'm unaware of, and that seems unlikely in the 21st century, that doesn't seem like a healthy response, to give to people. So I'll tell you which two authors I have in mind in just a minute, but let me fill that minute first before I get there with like a historical look at gaps in delivery, and then I'll tell you which two authors at the end. But like, let's begin with Tolkien, and you can come up with your own list of gaps in literary history, because this is what I've thought about, and I didn't go like. You look it up, and so you can look it up, and I'm sure find better examples than what I'm going to give. But Tolkien, like this, let's see if I can actually point right there. That's Tolkien. That's Lord of the Rings. Hobbit is going to be right there. The Hobbit came out in 1937. The first edition, and that same year, 1937, same year, the publisher like, ooh, this is doing well. We need to get a sequel out, and Tolkien agrees and starts working on a sequel. It has to revise The Hobbit first, because it's like. Gollum like gave the ring away, and this was like happy to do something to trade it to Bilbo. Okay, it has to be a little bit bigger of a deal, the ring, and so. But so the second edition had some revisions, but that was the same year that Tolkien agreed to do the sequel. But Lord of the Rings didn't come out in 1938 or 39. It came out in 1954 and then 55. Also, the three of them came out. And there's other fantasy books that have a similar-ish gap legacy here. I mean, like Philip Pullman. I didn't even read those. I tried. They weren't really for me. But there's a 17-year gap between the third. And now, granted, he has a little bit of leeway here because it was a trilogy, and the Promised Trilogy was delivered, and then it was 17 years before a fourth book appeared. And Ursula K. Le Guin, who I do love, and I have read these ones. There was an 18-year gap, and it was really the same situation where the trilogy, there's three of them, they're complete, and then there's 18 years before the fourth one. But we don't actually have to stay in fantasy. I mean, I can look at my bookshelf, this one over here, that's mostly not fantasy. And there's there's a good-ish example right here. I'll be right back. So Harper Lee, right, wrote To Kill a Mockingbird, right? This came out in 1960. And it's phenomenal. Everyone loves her and loves it. And I'm unaware of like a smear campaign against her that said like, you haven't given us a sequel, And then 55 years go by, and this comes out. Go Set a Watchman comes out. So if you consider this canon, sure. If this is like canonical in our world, fine. If this is like an elder abuse situation of someone trying to make money on an old, Once Upon a Right, whatever you consider, it's either nothing ever came out, or it's a 55-year gap between them. And it doesn't just have to be books, right? I mean, my DVD. Let me see if I can put it for you. My DVD player, right? There's my Switch. There's my DVD player. Like, think about like Godfather. I mean, there's tons of these examples, but think about like Godfather. And the first one comes out. The second one comes out in 1974. Okay, acclaim, Academy Award and whatever. And the third one comes out in 1990. And just because, like in Godfather, that there was a big gap that people didn't say it was like a terrible franchise. Like, oh, this is a horrible franchise. And the same is true with books, right? Back to the bookshelf. We don't appraise books by the length of their gaps. An obvious example for this is, let's go back to Tolkien. Tolkien. And let's compare him to C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis is in a pile. There's piles of books all over the house, too. There's a shelf here that's like the science books, but there's just piles. Let me go grab it. I have C.S. Lewis in a pile over here. And this, he put all 7 books came out in 7 years. Didn't miss a year. Every single year consecutively. He was the Sanderson of his time, C.S. Lewis. Just 7 for 7. And he didn't survive that time as well as Tolkien did. If we were to do a competition and say, let's put Tolkien, point again if I can, the Tolkien, the patient perfectionist, against C.S. Lewis, the first Sanderson, who emerges from that competition as the grandfather of modern fantasy? The question here is sufficient as an answer. We're going to have Tolkien, coming from that. And so when we look over our shoulder at yesteryear, you look over my shoulder and I see a Yule log. But at earlier generations, we don't grade books by their gaps. We don't assign the same urgency to old writers and old media, whether it's Godfather or whatever, that we do today. These earlier generations, maybe this is not true, but it seems like they had more patience. We have lost patience. Maybe the internet did it, maybe whatever, just the pace of life did it, something like that. But we seem to have, like our earlier generation, we seem to have lost patience. We've forgotten what it takes to create a great work. Those gaps are really required. And so instead of creating great works, instead of waiting and being patient for great works, what we do is we lambast George R. R. Martin, right? That's one of the two that I said I was thinking about at the beginning of this, and Patrick Rothfuss. All of Rothfuss's work is around the top shelf right there. That's all of Rothfuss's work. But I think we should exercise this old world patience, what I assume we all used to have, and just call it Christmas spirit and extend that Christmas spirit to the Rothfusses and the George R. R. Martins and everybody else, like we used to. Because in the age of AI bulk, I think we could all use a little bit less quantity and a lot more quality in the media that we are consuming. And so this year, I will be celebrating gaps. And I hope that this is the end. I hope this didn't really go anywhere. I hope people extend the same patience to you, and that your Christmas spirit and their Christmas spirit meet in the middle, like that Harry Potter spell at the end, Voldemort and Potter, but it's just like magic in the center in a good way. I hope that for you this Christmas. And now it's time to go eat and do all of the festivities. So whatever today is for you, have a good that.